I never imagined I'd be the man standing in handcuffs while my wife performed grief for an audience of neighbors. My name is Louis Cole, and I'm 33 years old. Each morning now, I wake in a house that feels too quiet, drink coffee on the back deck, and try to rebuild what Phoebe tried to destroy. My wife, Phoebe Cole, the woman I once trusted with everything, calculated each lie with precision. The self-inflicted mark on her wrist, the tearful 911 call, the performance for Officer Dean that evening. My jaw clenched when I realized the depth of her betrayal, but I made a choice that night in the police cruiser. I would not let her lies define me. I would fight with truth, not rage. The neighborhood watched me fall. Now they'll watch me rise. But let me start from the beginning. Before I go any further, let me know in the comments where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow I will share a story you don't want to miss. I stood back to check my work, running my hand along the freshly installed drywall. 4 hours of steady focus had paid off. The seams were perfect, ready for tape and mud tomorrow. The Johnson kitchen remodel was coming together nicely, ahead of schedule even. My phone buzzed in my pocket and I smiled seeing Caleb's name. "Yo, I'm outside. Bring in lunch," he called through the phone. I dusted off my hands and headed out to the driveway where Caleb's truck was parked, the smell of burgers filling the air. Caleb Jones had been my friend since high school and now owned a small auto shop one town over. He handed me a wrapped sandwich and leaned against his truck. "So, how's it going, man?" he asked, unwrapping his own burger. I shrugged, taking a bite. "Job's going good. Should finish by next Tuesday if the rain holds off." Caleb gave me that look, the one that said he knew I was dodging. "Not the job, Louis. Home. How's things with Phoebe?" My shoulders tensed. "That obvious, huh?" "Your face tells stories even when your mouth doesn't," he said, wiping ketchup from his beard. "So, what's happening?" I took another bite, chewing slowly before answering. "Phoebe's been distant. Working late. Lots of gym sessions with that trainer, Damien. The guy with the Instagram account full of protein shakes?" Caleb raised an eyebrow. "That's the one." I wadded up the wrapper and tossed it in Caleb's truck cab. "She's there almost every night now." Caleb set his food down, his expression serious. "Look, I don't want to be that guy, but something feels off. Late night gym sessions? With Mr. Fitness Model? Come on." "It's not like that," I said automatically, though my stomach nodded. "She's been talking about getting in shape for months." "At 9 at night? 4 times a week?" Caleb shook his head. "I'm just saying, keep your eyes open. I've been married to her for 6 years, Caleb." I picked up a water bottle, avoiding his eyes. "I need to believe in us more than I need to believe in suspicion." Caleb sighed. "Just be careful, man. That's all I'm saying." I nodded, changing the subject to the Seahawks' chances this season. When I got home that evening, Phoebe was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She barely looked up when I walked in. "Hey," I said, setting my keys down. "I picked up that pasta you like from Antonio's." "Not hungry," she muttered, eyes still fixed on her screen. I unpacked the food anyway, the rich aroma of garlic and basil filling our kitchen. "You sure? It's your favorite." Phoebe finally glanced up. "I already ate at the gym." I sat at the counter alone, the quiet of the house weighing on me. "Remember when we used to talk for hours after work? When dinner was an event, not an obligation?" "So," I started, trying to keep my voice casual. "I was looking at our accounts today. There've been some cash withdrawals I don't recognize. And a hotel charge?" Her head snapped up, eyes narrowing. "Are you monitoring my spending now?" "What? No, I just noticed." "It was a work retreat," she cut me off. "Marketing team building. I told you about it last week." Had she? I couldn't remember any mention of a retreat, but before I could press further, she stood up. "I'm going to shower. Don't wait up." Later that night, I lay on the couch, a thin blanket pulled over me. The sound of Phoebe locking our bedroom door echoed through the quiet house. When had a locked door between us become normal? I stared at the ceiling, remembering how we used to fall asleep tangled together, her head on my chest. The next morning, I woke before sunrise, my back stiff from the couch. I made coffee, the rich aroma filling the kitchen as dawn crept through the windows. When Phoebe finally emerged, her hair still damp from the shower, I tried again. "Morning," I said, sliding a mug toward her. "Sleep okay?" "Fine." She took the coffee without meeting my eyes. "Phoebe, can we talk? Something feels off between us." She sighed, checking her watch. "I'm late for work, Louis." "Not now." When then? You're never home anymore. Don't start. Her voice had that edge, the one that shut down conversation before it began. As I grabbed my keys to leave, I glanced at our doorbell camera, its small red light blinking steadily. At least something in this house was still working properly, recording everything that happened at our front door. There was comfort in that small red eye, watching impassively. That evening, I stood at the kitchen window, dinner cooling untouched beside me. It was 9:03 p.m. when Phoebe's car pulled out of the driveway, taillights glowing red as she drove away. To the gym, again. My stomach twisted with a truth my heart wasn't ready to accept. How long could I keep ignoring what was right in front of me? Friday afternoon came with the kind of sunshine that usually lifted my mood. I wrapped up the Johnson kitchen renovation early, telling the crew to head home for the weekend. Something in me had decided this was the night to fix things with Phoebe. "You sure about knocking off early?" Caleb asked, wiping dusty hands on his jeans. "We could get a head start on the backsplash." "I'm sure," I said, packing up my tools with care. "Phoebe and I need some time." He nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Good luck, man." I stopped at Miller's Market on the way home, wandering the aisles with purpose. Ribeye steaks, her favorite. A bottle of that red wine from the vineyard we'd visited 3 years ago. Ingredients for that mushroom sauce she loved. The cashier smiled as she rang me up. "Someone's having a nice night," she commented. "That's the plan," I replied, feeling the weight of hope and worry all at once. Driving home, I rehearsed what I'd say. No accusations, no interrogations, just us, reconnecting over dinner like we used to before everything got so damn complicated. Her car was already in the driveway when I pulled up, unusual for a Friday. Maybe she'd had the same idea? That thought carried me through the front door, grocery bags in hand. "Phoebe, I'm home early. Thought we could—" She was pacing the living room, phone clutched in her hand. When she turned, her face wasn't relieved or happy. It was tight with something between panic and rage. "Why are you here?" she demanded. I held up the bags. "Thought I'd make dinner. Steaks. That wine you like. Were you checking up on me?" Her voice climbed higher. "Did you track my location or something?" The accusation hit me like cold water. "What? No, I just wanted to surprise you." "Right," she laughed, brittle and sharp. "Just like you just happened to check the credit card statements. Just like you just happened to question me about the hotel." I set the bags down slowly. "Phoebe, I don't know what's going on with you, but I haven't been tracking you. I've been working all day. You've always been controlling, Lewis. Always watching, always questioning where I go." The room seemed to tilt slightly. This wasn't my wife, not the woman I knew. This was someone constructing a narrative, building walls of accusations that had nothing to do with reality. "That's not true," I said quietly. "I don't track you. I don't follow you." I pointed toward the front door. "We have a doorbell camera, not spy equipment. It's for security, not surveillance." "You check my spending." "I pay the bills," I countered, keeping my voice steady despite the heat rising in my chest. "That's not spying. That's accounting." Her eyes darted around the room, landing on nothing. "You don't trust me." "Should I?" The question slipped out before I could catch it. Her face flushed. "I'm going to the bathroom." She stormed past me, bumping my shoulder hard enough that I stepped back. I stood in the kitchen, the groceries forgotten on the counter. What just happened? This wasn't an argument about dinner plans. This was something calculated, something that made my contractor's mind think of foundation cracks, those tiny fissures that signal catastrophic failure ahead. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The house was so quiet I could hear the refrigerators hum. When the bathroom door finally opened, Phoebe emerged looking different. Smaller somehow, her face pale and drawn. She cradled her left wrist against her chest. Her eyes were red-rimmed but dry. "Phoebe?" I stepped toward her. "Are you okay?" She flinched away dramatically. "Don't come near me," she whispered, pulling her phone from her pocket. "What are you doing?" I asked, confusion giving way to a cold dread. She dialed, her fingers trembling. When she spoke, her voice had transformed into something fragile and terrified. 911. "Please help me," she gasped into the phone. "He hurt me. My husband. He grabbed me. I'm afraid." The world stopped. I stood frozen in our kitchen, the steaks warming on the counter as my wife told a stranger I had assaulted her. "Phoebe, what the hell? I didn't touch you." My voice sounded strange to my own ears. She turned away, still speaking urgently into the phone. "Yes, that's the address. Please hurry." "You're lying," I said, mind racing. "This is insane. I never touched you." The wail of approaching sirens cut through my protests. They'd arrived fast, too fast, like they'd been nearby, or waiting. Blue and red lights flashed through the front windows. Our quiet street was about to become a stage, and I was being cast as the villain without ever seeing the script. Officer Dean was first to the door, another patrol car pulling up behind him. Our neighbors, the Delgados, the Millers, even old Mr. Peterson, spilled onto their porches, curious and alarmed. Some had phones raised, recording. Phoebe pulled open the door before they could knock. "He's in here," she said, voice wobbling. Her eyes were glossy now, tears finally appearing on cue. She held out her wrist, showing a reddened mark I'd never seen before. "Ma'am, are you all right?" Officer Dean asked, stepping inside. "No," she whispered. "He threw a picture frame. Then he grabbed me when I tried to leave." "That's a lie," I protested, keeping my distance. "Check the doorbell camera. I never touched her." Dean's partner moved toward me, hand on his belt. "Sir, I need you to step back and keep your hands visible." "This is ridiculous," I said, raising my hands. "She's making this up. I came home to make dinner." But Dean was looking at the mark on Phoebe's wrist, then at me, calculating. I watched his professional skepticism harden into judgment. "Sir, turn around and place your hands behind your back," Dean said, unclipping his handcuffs. "You can't be serious." But he was, his face set in stone. "Louis Cole, you're under arrest for domestic assault." Cold metal closed around my wrists as the neighbors watched. Humiliation washed over me in waves. "Check the camera," I yelled as Dean guided me toward the cruiser. "The doorbell records everything. She's lying." But my protests were drowned by the murmurs from the street and Phoebe's carefully timed sobs. As the cruiser door shut behind me, my last glimpse was of my wife on our porch, weeping into her hands as Mrs. Delgado put an arm around her shoulders. The perfect picture of a victim. Through the window bars, I watched my life collapse in real time. The groceries still sat on the counter. The wine would go unopened. The steaks would spoil. Humiliation burned hotter than anger as we pulled away, my home and my reputation shrinking in the rearview mirror. The holding cell smelled like industrial disinfectant and desperation. I sat on the metal bench, hands folded between my knees, watching the pale green paint peel off the cinder block walls. Time crawled. 3 cells down, some guy hummed the same 8 bars of a country song over and over like a broken record trapped in his head. My contractor's hands felt strange without tools or purpose. I'd built houses, fixed broken things all my life. Now I couldn't even fix this, whatever this nightmare had become. Officer Dean's boots squeaked against the linoleum as he approached. His face had softened slightly from the hard professional mask he'd worn on my front lawn. "Cole." He unlocked the cell door. "You'll be processed out once the paperwork clears." I stood up, muscles stiff from hours on the metal bench. "How long?" "Few more hours. Your wife filed an emergency protective order. Judge signed it." My stomach dropped. "She what?" "You can't go within 500 feet of her or your residence for the next 30 days, pending a hearing." Dean's voice was flat, reciting facts rather than offering comfort. "This is insane. I need to see the doorbell camera footage. It'll prove I never touched her." Dean's expression closed again. "That's for the lawyers now." He hesitated, then added, "Listen, I'm just doing my job here." "Your job," I repeated, the words hollow in my mouth. After he left, I sat back down, staring at nothing. The humming detainee had moved on to whistling. I closed my eyes and tried to pinpoint the exact moment my marriage had cracked beyond repair. Was it tonight? Last week? Or had the foundation been compromised from the beginning? Remember when Phoebe and I painted the living room? That soft yellow she insisted on that I thought was too bright but grew to love. We'd gotten more paint on each other than the walls, laughing as we worked. Where was that woman tonight? Had she ever existed? Just after midnight, they released me with my wallet, keys, and phone. No charges filed yet, but the protective order meant I was effectively homeless. I stood under the harsh lights of the police station parking lot, scrolling through contacts. There was really only one person to call. Caleb answered on the second ring, his voice thick with sleep. "Louis? What's going on, man?" "I need a ride," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'll explain when you get here." 20 minutes later, Caleb's pickup pulled into the lot. He didn't ask questions until we were driving away from the station. "Start at the beginning," he said. So I did, each word making the nightmare more real. Caleb's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel as I spoke. "Take me home," I said when I finished. "I need to get some clothes at least." "You can't go there, man. The order—" "Just drive by." "If her car's gone, I can grab what I need and leave." Caleb frowned but nodded. Our street was quiet now, porch lights off, the neighborhood drama over for the evening. Phoebe's car was gone. Police tape still fluttered from one corner of the porch to the other, a yellow warning not to enter. "Wait here," I told Caleb, ducking under the tape and using my key. Inside, the house felt wrong. Drawers hung open in the living room. The picture frames that normally lined our mantel were gone. In the bedroom, her closet stood half empty, clothes pulled down in haste. Back in the kitchen, I found a note on the counter, written in Phoebe's neat handwriting, then abandoned mid-sentence. "You scared me. Don't come near me." I stuffed clothes into a duffel bag, grabbed my laptop, and the portable hard drive with our financial documents. As I was leaving, I noticed the doorbell camera's green light still blinking. At least that was still working. Caleb was drumming his fingers on the steering wheel when I returned. "You need to stay calm and think, Louis. This isn't just about tonight anymore." I nodded, bone-tired. "Can you recommend a lawyer?" "I know someone, Miriam Cho. She helped my cousin when his ex tried something similar. Book me a hotel tonight. I'll call her first thing tomorrow." Miriam Cho's office was in a converted Victorian house downtown. She was Korean-American, mid-40s, with short black hair and sharp, appraising eyes that missed nothing. No family photos on her desk, just credentials on the wall and legal texts organized by color. "Tell me exactly what happened," she said, fingers poised over her tablet. I went through it all again. The arguments, the gym sessions with Damien, the suspicious charges, and finally the performance on our front lawn. Miriam's face remained neutral, but her typing grew more intense as I spoke. When I finished, she set her tablet down. "Most people want to fight fire with fire," she said. "But that's not how we win. We don't fight noise with noise, Mr. Cole. We fight with receipts." "Receipts?" "Evidence. Documentation. Truth." She tapped her pen against her tablet. "I need you to get me that doorbell footage immediately, and your bank statements, phone records, everything." I nodded, feeling a strange calm settle over me. "I'll download the footage as soon as I get back to the hotel." That afternoon, I sat in my sterile hotel room, laptop open on the desk. The doorbell camera app showed dozens of recorded clips. I found Friday afternoon and watched Phoebe pace the porch, phone in hand. Then our argument, her storming away. I downloaded everything onto a USB drive, pausing on the frozen image of Phoebe walking calmly into the bathroom. The same bathroom she'd emerged from minutes later, clutching her wrist, her voice transformed into a victim's plea. The evidence was there, all of it, just waiting to be shown. Saturday morning, I woke up at Caleb's place, groggy and stiff from sleeping on his pull-out couch. He lived in a converted garage apartment, small but functional, with the smell of motor oil permanently embedded in the walls. For a moment, I forgot why I was there. Then reality rushed back like cold water. "Coffee's ready," Caleb called from the kitchenette, and I cleared off my workbench in the corner. "Figure you need a space to get organized." I nodded gratefully, accepting the steaming mug. "Thanks, man. I can't tell you how much this means." "Don't mention it." He squeezed my shoulder. "I've got to head to the shop for a few hours. You good here?" After he left, I set up my laptop on the metal workbench, surrounded by Caleb's neatly organized tools. The familiarity of wrenches and hammers hanging in perfect order gave me an odd comfort. At least, something in the world still made sense. I started with the doorbell footage, methodically reviewing every clip from the past week. There it was, Phoebe walking in and out, coming home late, leaving early. All the normal routines of our life, except they weren't normal at all, were they? I watched Friday's footage again. The argument. Her walking to the bathroom, the timestamp showing exactly 4 minutes inside. Then her emergence, clutching her wrist, face transformed. Not a single frame showed me touching her. Not one showed violence or broken glass. Just a woman creating fiction out of thin air. I remember how Phoebe used to watch those crime shows, fascinated by the details, always saying, "If I ever committed a crime, I wouldn't make these mistakes." Turns out, she'd been taking notes. Around 2 o'clock, Miriam arrived with a leather portfolio tucked under her arm. She declined coffee but accepted water, then spread several forms across the workbench. "These are subpoena requests," she explained, tapping each document. "We need the 911 recording from Friday. That's priority one. And these, she slid 2 more forms forward, are for your banking records, both joint accounts. I already have access to those online, I said. Yes, but we need official documentation for court. Timestamps, IP addresses of logins, everything. She straightened the papers precisely. How are you holding up? I shrugged. Working through it. After Miriam left, I walked 3 blocks to Mrs. Delgado's house. The retired elementary school teacher had lived next door to us for years, her garden the pride of the neighborhood. I found her kneeling in her flower beds, gardening gloves covered in soil. Luis! She stood, brushing dirt from her knees. I was wondering when you'd come by. Such a terrible thing on Friday. That's why I'm here, Mrs. Delgado. I need to ask, did you hear anything before the police came? Any shouting? Glass breaking? She frowned, removing her gloves. Not a thing. It was quiet as could be until those sirens came wailing up. I was watering my hydrangeas and nearly jumped out of my skin. Would you be willing to write that down? Sign a statement? Of course. Her kind eyes hardened slightly. I don't know what's happening between you two, but I know what I didn't hear, and I didn't hear any fighting. The next few days blurred together. I threw myself into work, taking every job I could, replacing rotted joists in an old Victorian, fixing a sagging porch on Maple Street. Physical labor kept the thoughts at bay. At night, I'd return to Caleb's, spread papers across the workbench, and document everything. I printed transaction histories, highlighted hotel charges, and cross-referenced them with Phoebe's calendar entries for training sessions. The pattern was obvious once you looked for it. You doing okay? Caleb would ask, handing me another beer. Getting there, I'd answer, though we both knew better. Thursday evening, Miriam called. The protective order hearing is set for next Wednesday. We're building a solid timeline. The 911 recording shows a clear discrepancy. She sounds perfectly calm at first, then suddenly hysterical. That matches the video, I said. After we hung up, I dove back into the bank statements. That's when I found it. A payment from our joint account to Damian Briggs for consulting. $300 dated just 2 weeks earlier. My heart pounded as I traced the entry with my finger. It wasn't much, but it was the first concrete link, the first real crack in her story. I immediately forwarded the file to Miriam, typing with unsteady fingers. Now we're getting somewhere, I whispered to the empty room, unaware that across town, Phoebe was filing new claims against me. By Wednesday morning, I stood beside Miriam in the echoing hallway of the county courthouse, watching people hurry past with their own problems clutched in manila folders. My hands felt clammy despite the building's aggressive air conditioning. Miriam looked bulletproof in her navy suit, not a hair out of place. Remember, she said, checking her watch, let the evidence do the talking. Don't react to her, no matter what she says. I nodded, straightening my tie. I'd spent 30 minutes that morning getting it perfect, as if a straight tie could somehow balance the scales of justice. I just want the truth out there. It will be, Miriam assured me, patting her tablet. Every second of it. Inside the courtroom, the polished wood gleamed under fluorescent lights. I caught sight of Phoebe immediately. She'd positioned herself at the opposite table, head slightly bowed, hands folded neatly. She wore a pale blue blouse that made her look fragile, vulnerable. Next to her, Colleen Hart arranged papers with brisk efficiency, her dark suit a stark contrast to Phoebe's deliberately soft appearance. I remember thinking how well Phoebe had always understood optics. Even in college, she knew exactly which outfit would make professors grant extensions, which smile would soften the toughest critic. Now she was performing again, but this time I was the only one who knew the script. Judge Reeves entered, his thin silver hair catching the light. After introductions and preliminaries, Colleen rose to speak first. Her voice carried practiced concern as she described an escalating pattern of control and intimidation, culminating in the alleged assault. Phoebe dabbed at her eyes with a tissue that hadn't been there seconds before. When it was our turn, Miriam stood calmly. Your Honor, we have evidence that directly contradicts Mrs. Cole's accusations. She tapped her tablet, and the courtroom monitor flickered to life. The doorbell footage played silently. There I was, standing in the living room, hands at my sides. There was Phoebe, walking unharmed to the bathroom, then emerging minutes later clutching her wrist. No thrown objects, no aggressive moves, just calculated theater. As you can see, Miriam said, there was no assault. Next, we'd like to play the 911 call. Phoebe's voice filled the courtroom. I need someone to come. Normal. Controlled. Then, without warning, Her tone broke into a trembling plea. "He hurt me. Please hurry." The transition was so abrupt, so manufactured, several people shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Miriam continued methodically. "We also have a statement from their neighbor, Mrs. Beatrice Delgado, who confirms there were no sounds of altercation prior to police arrival." Mrs. Delgado's neat handwriting appeared on the screen, her testimony simple and devastating. "Finally," Miriam said, "we have bank records showing Mrs. Cole's whereabouts during times she claimed to be in fear." The screen displayed highlighted transactions, hotel charges, ATM withdrawals, all time-stamped during periods Phoebe had sworn she was hiding from me. Colleen stood. "Objection, Your Honor. These financial records are irrelevant to the incident in question." Judge Reeves peered over his glasses. "I'll allow it. The credibility of the petitioner is directly relevant." I watched Phoebe's face tighten slightly. She whispered something to Colleen, who shook her head minutely. The judge leaned forward, his attention fixed on Phoebe. "Mrs. Cole, the timing doesn't add up. These records show you were elsewhere during times you claimed to be in danger." The courtroom fell silent. Phoebe's fingers twisted the tissue into a tight spiral. There must be some confusion with the dates, Your Honor. I've been under such stress." Judge Reeves's expression hardened. "Based on the evidence presented, I am dismissing this protective order." He removed his glasses. "Mrs. Cole, I should warn you that filing false reports is a serious matter. This court does not take such actions lightly." The air in the room seemed to lighten, as if a storm cloud had finally broken. I exhaled slowly, feeling relief wash through me. Outside the courthouse, Caleb clapped my shoulder. "You're halfway there, man. First round's on me tonight." I managed a faint smile, the weight not entirely lifted but certainly shifted. "Thanks for being here." That night at Caleb's apartment, I opened my laptop to check my business email, hoping to get back to some semblance of normalcy. My stomach dropped as I scrolled through 3 new messages, all cancellations from regular clients. One mentioned hearing concerning things about your conduct. Another cited anonymous complaints about aggressive behavior at job sites. I stared at the screen, the glow illuminating my face in the darkened room. "She's not done," I whispered. 2 days after the court victory, I sat across from Miriam in her office, the morning light casting long shadows across her polished desk. 3 more cancellations had hit my inbox overnight, and a building inspector had coincidentally shown up at my biggest project, citing an anonymous complaint. "This isn't random," I said, pushing my phone toward her with the emails displayed. "She's trying to starve me out." Miriam nodded, her expression composed but eyes sharp. "I agree. Let me see those IP addresses from the complaint emails." I watched as she worked, her fingers moving efficiently across her keyboard. The silence stretched, broken only by the soft click of keys and the distant hum of traffic outside. "Got it," she said finally, turning her screen so I could see. "All these complaints originated from the same IP address." She tapped the screen. "And it belongs to—" Her mouth tightened. "Flex Time Fitness on Oakwood Drive." My stomach dropped. "That's where Damien works. That's where Phoebe's been going for her training sessions." "Exactly." Miriam leaned back, folding her arms. "She's not just lying about you. She's weaponizing her affair partner's resources against your livelihood." I rubbed my face, feeling the stubble I hadn't bothered to shave that morning. I knew she was calculating, but "We need more," Miriam said. "I'm sending Kyle to the gym. He's discreet, former law enforcement. Let's see what he can find out about Damian Briggs and his relationship with your wife." The word "wife" felt like sandpaper in my ears. I remembered how she'd looked on our wedding day, laughing as we fed each other cake, her eyes bright with what I thought was love. Had it all been performance? "Do it," I said. "I'm tired of being blindsided." That evening, Caleb and I were going through invoices at his kitchen table when my phone rang. Miriam's number. "Lewis," she said without preamble. "Kyle just checked in. You're going to want to hear this?" I put the phone on speaker so Caleb could listen. "Damian Briggs had no idea Phoebe was married," she continued. "According to the receptionist and another trainer Kyle spoke with, Phoebe told everyone there she was recently divorced. She even wore no ring." I felt a strange, hollow laugh escape me. "Of course she did." "There's more," Miriam said. "When Damien found out about the case, apparently he saw your name in some paperwork Phoebe left in her gym bag. He confronted her. The moment he learned about the false police report and that you were still very much her husband, he ended things completely." "He ghosted her?" Caleb asked, eyebrows raised. Completely, Miriam confirmed. Refused to take her calls, blocked her number. According to Kyle's sources, he wants nothing to do with her schemes. He told the other trainers he didn't sign up for this crazy drama. I leaned back in my chair, processing. So, he's not helping her send these complaints? It appears not, Miriam said. But she's still using the gym's Wi-Fi. We need to keep gathering evidence. After we hung up, I checked my business accounts. Another contract had been put on hold pending a review from city inspectors. My cash flow was bleeding out slowly. She's trying to break you, Caleb said, pushing a beer across the table. Don't let her. I won't, I promised. But I need to keep working. These inspection delays are killing me. Caleb nodded thoughtfully. My cousin's renovating his garage. Nothing fancy, but it's paid work. I'll call him tomorrow. Thanks, I said, genuinely grateful. I just need to keep things afloat until this is over. Remember, Caleb said, clinking his bottle against mine. Let her lies trap her. The truth always finds its way out. 4 days later, I was installing drywall at Caleb's cousin's place when my phone buzzed. A voicemail notification, unknown number. I wiped my hands and hit play. Phoebe's voice filled my ear, but she wasn't talking to me. It sounded like she'd accidentally dialed my number while on another call. Don't understand, she was saying to someone. Once he loses his contracts, we're done. I just need a little more time. The settlement will be worth it, I promise. The message cut off abruptly. My hands trembled slightly as I replayed it. There it was, clear admission of her intentions. She wasn't just lying about abuse. She was deliberately targeting my business to strengthen her position. I immediately called Miriam and forwarded her the voicemail. This is exactly what we needed, she said, her voice tight with controlled excitement. She's admitted her motive in her own words. So what now? I asked, still staring at my phone like it might bite. Miriam's voice changed, took on a steel edge I hadn't heard before. It's time to stop defending, Lewis. It's time to strike back. Monday morning arrived with a clarity I hadn't felt since before Phoebe's accusations. I parked outside Miriam's office building, noticing how the early autumn light caught the glass. Inside her office, files were spread across the conference table in neat, devastating rows. Morning, Louie, Miriam said, offering me coffee from a sleek carafe. Ready to put it all together? I nodded, taking the mug. More than ready. We spent the next 3 hours organizing everything chronologically. The doorbell camera footage showing Phoebe walking calmly into the bathroom, then emerging with a suddenly reddened wrist. The 911 call with its dramatic shift in tone. Mrs. Delgado's statement confirming no sounds of violence. Bank statements showing hotel charges during training sessions. And finally, the accidental voicemail that revealed her endgame. Once he loses his contracts, we're done, Miriam repeated Phoebe's words, tapping the transcript. That's admission of malicious intent to sabotage your livelihood. I flipped through the ATM withdrawal records. Every cash pull matched a date with Damien, creating a perfect timeline of deception. She was methodical, I said quietly. I'll give her that. Miriam nodded, sliding a freshly printed document across the table. This is our updated complaint. We're alleging malicious prosecution, defamation, and financial sabotage. Her protective order failed, but she's still attacking your business. This gives us leverage in the divorce. As I scanned the document, my phone buzzed with a text from Phoebe. Hope you're enjoying what's left of your business. TikTok. I showed it to Miriam, who photographed it immediately. Perfect timing, she said with a tight smile. Keep collecting these. Don't respond. She thinks I'm finished, I said, pocketing my phone. Let her think that, Miriam replied, sorting papers into a folder. Underestimation is our advantage. The mediator needs to see the full pattern. What about the anonymous complaints? Can we prove they came from her? Miriam's smile widened slightly. My investigator traced the IP addresses. While they vary, they all connect to devices synced with her Apple ID. Her digital fingerprints are everywhere. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. So, we wait for mediation? We wait, Miriam confirmed. Say nothing. Do nothing to alert her. Let her keep digging her own grave. The rest of the week passed in a strange, suspended state. I picked up small jobs, fixing a neighbor's deck, replacing rotted wood on Mrs. Delgado's garden shed. Simple work that couldn't be halted by Phoebe's interference. I'd come home to Caleb's place exhausted but satisfied, the physical labor a welcome distraction. Each night, another taunting text would arrive from Phoebe, each one more confident than the last. Your reputation is in tatters. Just give up. Nobody wants to hire a man with issues. How's unemployment? Thinking of selling the house. You won't need it anyway. I forwarded each message to Miriam without replying. Each silent response felt like laying another brick in the wall that would eventually surround Phoebe. Wednesday night, I sat on Caleb's porch watching fireflies blink in the gathering darkness. The air smelled like cut grass and distant rain. "You hanging in there?" Caleb asked, bringing out a couple of beers. "Yeah," I said, accepting one. "It's weird. I used to think about confronting her, making her admit what she did. Now I just want it over with." "That's growth," Caleb said, settling into the chair beside me. "Revenge burns out. Justice lasts." I remembered the way my stomach had knotted when those cuffs clicked shut, how the neighbors had stared. The humiliation had been physical, like drowning on dry land. Now I felt only determination, steady as a heartbeat. Friday evening, my phone rang. Miriam. "We just received confirmation," she said without preamble. "The complaint about your licensing came from a tablet registered to Phoebe. We have the device ID, timestamps, everything. Every trail leads back to her." I exhaled slowly. "So, that's it? We have everything?" "We're ready," Miriam confirmed. "I've prepared the full presentation for Monday's mediation. Her attorney won't know what hit them." After we hung up, I stayed on the porch watching the sunset fade from orange to deep purple. I gripped my coffee mug tightly, feeling the warmth against my palms. "She used lies to destroy me," I said quietly to the darkening yard. "Now the truth will destroy her." My phone screen glowed in the twilight, displaying the calendar notification I'd been waiting for. Divorce settlement. Monday, 9 a.m. Monday morning arrived with a crisp autumn chill. I straightened my tie in the rearview mirror of my truck, watching the slight tremor in my fingers. Not fear, anticipation. "Ready?" Miriam asked as we met outside the mediator's office building, her briefcase clutched firmly in one hand, tablet in the other. I nodded. "More than you know." The mediator's office occupied a beige conference room on the third floor. Neutral territory with uncomfortable chairs and bland watercolor landscapes on the walls. A place designed for endings. When we entered, Phoebe and Colleen Hart were already seated. Phoebe wore a powder blue blouse that made her look fragile, her hair pulled back in a modest style. The victim costume. Our eyes met briefly, hers darted away first. The mediator, a gray-haired woman named Ms. Vincent, introduced herself with practiced neutrality, explaining the process ahead. I barely heard her. My focus narrowed to Phoebe's manicured hands fidgeting with a tissue. The same hands that had dialed 911 with a lie that nearly destroyed my life. "Let's begin with initial proposals," Ms. Vincent said, nodding to Colleen. Colleen Hart straightened, her voice smooth and rehearsed. "My client is seeking reasonable spousal support for 3 years, equal division of all marital assets, and, given the emotional circumstances, sole ownership of the marital home." She slid a document toward the mediator. "We believe this arrangement acknowledges the breakdown of trust while allowing both parties to move forward." I felt my jaw tighten but kept my expression neutral, just as Miriam had coached me. Phoebe's eyes flicked toward me, gauging my reaction. "Ms. Cho?" the mediator prompted. "Before we discuss our counter-proposal," Miriam said, her voice calm but firm, "there's context the mediator needs to understand." She reached into her briefcase and removed her tablet, sliding it across the table. "This is a chronological presentation of evidence we've collected," she continued, tapping the screen to life. "It documents a pattern of deliberate deception and malicious action by Mrs. Cole." The screen came alive with the doorbell footage, showing Phoebe walking calmly into our bathroom, then emerging minutes later clutching her wrist. The 911 call played next. The moment her voice shifted from conversational to hysterical, captured perfectly. "Note the timestamp," Miriam said. "This call was made 3 minutes after Mrs. Cole self-inflicted the mark on her wrist." Ms. Vincent's pen stopped mid-air as she watched, eyes narrowing. The presentation continued. ATM withdrawals matching hotel stays, gym Wi-Fi records showing the origin of anonymous complaints against my business, and finally, Phoebe's own damning voicemail. Her voice filled the room. "Once he loses his contracts, we're done." Phoebe's face drained of color. Her careful composure crumbled as each piece slotted into place, forming a picture no amount of acting could disguise. Colleen Hart whispered something urgent in Phoebe's ear, but Phoebe seemed beyond hearing. Her eyes locked onto mine, desperate now. "Lewis," she said, her voice breaking. "We can fix this. I was angry. I wasn't thinking. Don't." The word came out softer than I expected. You tried to ruin me, I continued evenly. You taught lies to breathe. Now they choke you. Miriam cleared her throat, taking back control of the room. Given the documented evidence of malicious intent and false statements to law enforcement, our terms are as follows. Mr. Cole retains full ownership of the marital home. No spousal support will be paid. Mrs. Cole will sign an acknowledgement of her false statements, which we will keep in escrow unless further actions are taken against Mr. Cole or his business. Colleen leaned close to Phoebe, whispering frantically. I watched Phoebe's shoulders slump as reality settled over her. After a moment, she nodded, defeated. Mrs. Cole accepts these terms, Colleen announced tightly. The next 20 minutes passed in a blur of paperwork and signatures. Phoebe's hand trembled as she signed each page, never looking up. Not once did she attempt to argue or negotiate. The weight of evidence had crushed any fight she had left. This matter is resolved, Ms. Vincent said finally, collecting the signed documents. I'll file these with the court today. Phoebe left quickly, Colleen following close behind. I remained seated, letting the moment sink in. Outside, the autumn air felt crisp against my face. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with it. Miriam stood beside me, nodding approvingly. You just took your life back. I looked toward my truck, parked at the curb. The same truck that had carried me home the night Phoebe's lies had nearly buried me. She took my peace for months, I murmured. I'll keep it for the rest of my life. I peeled back the blue painter's tape, revealing a clean line where the new weathered oak met the ceiling. 4 weeks had passed since that conference room, since the moment Phoebe's web collapsed under the weight of her own lies. The old color, morning frost, she'd called it, was gone now, replaced by something warmer. My phone buzzed on the stepladder. Caleb's name lit up the screen. How's it looking? He asked when I answered. Like a new place. I stepped back, surveying the room. Almost done with the living room. Beer delivery in 15. Don't start the hallway without me. True to his word, Caleb arrived with a 6-pack and takeout bags. He whistled, looking around the freshly painted room. Night and day, man. Night and day. We settled on the back porch, the October air carrying that perfect chill that makes cold beer taste even better. I'd rebuilt the porch swing last weekend, another piece of my life reclaimed. Got a call from that Oakdale job today, I said between bites. They're ready to resume. Said they heard good things. Caleb grinned, tipping his bottle toward me. Told you, good work speaks for itself. So does the truth, I added. My phone rang again, Miriam this time. I answered on speaker. Just checking in, she said, her voice crisp as ever. The DA's office confirmed they're opening an investigation into the false report. They've requested all our documentation. They'll get it, I said. What happens to her? Likely misdemeanor charges, maybe probation, definitely a fine. Miriam paused. But the permanent record is what matters. After we hung up, Caleb shook his head. Justice, man. Slow but sure. Like paint drying, I replied, gesturing to the walls inside. We laughed, and it felt good. Natural in a way nothing had for months. The city inspector had cleared my business license last week, removing the final obstacle Phoebe had created. 3 clients had already returned with apologies, and 2 new referrals came in yesterday. Heard anything about her? Caleb asked, his tone careful. I shook my head. Mrs. Delgado said she saw her moving boxes into some rental on Pine Street. Studio apartment, I think. And Damien? Gone. Transferred to another gym in Seattle. Smart man. I'd learned through the grapevine that Damien had disappeared from the local scene entirely. He'd blocked Phoebe on everything, left her messages unread, transferred his clients. Even he knew when something was toxic beyond saving. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the yard. In the cooling evening, I could almost feel the neighborhood's whispers dying down. The scandal was old news now. People had chosen sides, and most had chosen truth. She tried calling Tessa last week, Caleb said, mentioning his wife. Tessa didn't pick up. I nodded, unsurprised. Phoebe's social circle had evaporated, not because I'd sought revenge, but because she'd shown them who she really was. Her marketing firm had restructured her position after clients raised concerns about her integrity. Her reputation, built on carefully maintained appearances, had crumbled once people glimpsed behind the mask. You know what's funny? I said, leaning back in the porch swing. She created this whole drama thinking it would destroy me. In the end, it was the only thing that showed me who she really was. Caleb nodded. Sometimes you need to lose something to see what you actually had. The streetlights flickered on as dusk settled into evening. For the first time in months, my phone sat silent beside me. No urgent calls from Miriam, no alerts about new complaints, no more battles to fight. Just quiet. Drama burns fast, I said softly. Truth lasts forever. I took a final sip of beer, watching the neighborhood settle into night. My home was mine again, my reputation rebuilt. The justice I'd sought had come not through revenge, but through patience and proof. Everything Phoebe had tried to take from me had returned, stronger for having been defended. The porch swing creaked gently in the evening breeze. Peace, at last. I believe stories such as this find us for a reason. If this one touches you, please subscribe. I share a new one every day. In the meantime, there are 2 stories on the screen that are even better.